Hey, what's up, car fam? Today we are washing my dream car. This is a 2017 Civic Type R. Honestly, any of the 10th gen Civic Type R and then the upcoming 11th gen are definitely my dream cars. This one here I've only had for a couple days. I rented it on Turo. I wanted to wash it because obviously it got dirty, and this car is super nice and definitely deserves to look really clean. But from an experience of like ownership and things like that, I heard these cars are really hard to wash because there's so much aero. So today I'm going to do a quick wash. I don't have a ton of all of my supplies to actually like wash it really good, but I'm gonna try to do my best. I'm kind of short on like towels and things like that, but it's all good. We're gonna get it looking a lot better than what it is now, and especially because it's black, you know, everything shows. It's really dusty, some watermarks and things like that. So gonna get it all clean, and then that way I have a good idea of what it's like to wash this car. And then this will be pretty chill. I'm just gonna hang out, wash my car. This is a new format, almost like Obsessed Garage, where he washes his cars and just kind of chats with you guys and stuff like that. So that's what we're gonna do today. Gonna wash it really quick, try to make this as easy as possible, and then get an understanding of everything this car honestly has. When you wash your car, you get a lot more of an idea of like all of the design features, flaws, and just interesting things because you're spending so much time with it. So that's why it's always really cool to spend time with your car and to wash it, because you can really appreciate and understand the design, and especially something like this. So let's go ahead and get started. So I apologize for the audio for all of this. I'm sure you're hearing it pretty loud, but hey, this is how it goes when you wash it. This is definitely a real raw feel of what it's like to wash your car. Some of you might find this relaxing. I actually watch car videos where people are washing their car, so for me, I love it. So as usual, starting off with a rinse. Oh, forgot to put this up. Let's see how this goes actually. Okay, not that great. So you can't really see it from the camera, but when you lift this rear windshield wiper, it actually touches the wing. So that's not fun. I'm sure some people probably put like a towel or something to cover it so that way you're not scratching this wing every time you wash the car. So for now, I'll just lift this up a little bit and then do my rinse, and then I'll put it back down because I don't want to scratch this. There's definitely a lot of places to wash on this car. There's so many cuts and angles and everything. It's pretty crazy. It looks sick, but I could already tell from somebody that has been washing cars for several years, just basic stuff. I'm not a detailer, don't get me wrong. But this one's definitely gonna take a lot of work. This is the type of car you definitely would really appreciate having a blower to be able to just blow off a lot of this water, because if not, a lot of these drips of water are going to get stuck in these aero pieces here for sure. But this car is so sick. After I'm done rinsing, then I'll tell you a little bit more about what my experience has been, and more so from the perspective of someone that's new to driving a manual, someone that hasn't spent a lot of time. Besides, I'd say an Audi S3 is the fastest car I've driven personally. That one, just for perspective, is I think 300 horsepower, 305, tons of torque, really quick, all-wheel drive. So yeah, that was the fastest thing I've driven. This definitely super quick. I'm very curious about this hood scoop here. I'm sure someone in the comments will share some ideas, because I know this comes out, basically the air goes in and then comes through here, and then I think it flows out through this grill here, from what I remember. So I'm curious how that is for washing, because I know some owners actually get a little bit of buildup on top of the engine cover, I believe. I guess maybe depending where you live or how much water, but I'm curious. But for now, I'm just gonna kind of go over it a little bit instead of shooting water directly in there. All right, so that was fun. My sprinklers turned on out of nowhere. All good. I literally just put a glove over them because I don't feel like moving the car or any of that. Cool. Got a decent little rinse. So now, in case you're curious, this is what I'm using, Mcguire's Gold Class Car Wash. I've been using it for a couple years. I honestly really like it. It's not too expensive and it leaves a nice shine, and it's really good at even removing certain scratches when you're kind of wiping. It's interesting. And then I've been using this here. Honestly, this thing isn't my favorite, but it's a lot better than not having a foam cannon or foam gun at all. So this is what I'm using. This just makes it easy to be able to get a little bit of soap on there, and then from there I could go ahead and actually start wiping it down a little more. Normally I start off with cleaning the wheels, but I actually ran out. And this is a quick wash because I have to leave in about an hour or so, so just want to get it decent for the road. So the Civic Type R, I've been in love with this car since it was first announced. The 10th gen anyway, not the one from, I think, the late 90s, early 2000s that came out. This one I've been in love with since 2016. I actually drove it. I was filming one when I was first getting into video. So the person that let me film their Civic Type R let me drive it too. And from that point on, I fell more in love with the car, even though people were still trying to figure out if they liked it or not and all that stuff. I knew after driving it, all of the hate and people talking just didn't experience the car. Even though, like, you know, looks are up to people and things like that. Totally up to them. It's subjective, definitely, but you drive this car and it's like, it's honestly so different than any Honda that you just drive, like an Accord, Civic SI. Those are great cars, but there's a reason why this one costs more and has gone up in value too, because it's that good. Oh. Washing your car and filming kind of throws off what you normally do. And this is a different car and all that stuff, but it's all good. And my coffee's still kicking in. Back to what I was saying. So there's a couple things that really surprised me about this car, and even my wife. When I first sat in the seat, they looked like they'd be so aggressive, so hard and stiff, because it's like, okay, performance-oriented racing bucket seats. But once you're in there, it's so comfortable. Super comfortable. You feel locked in. And the longer you're in the seat, the more comfortable you get. This is the first time I've actually experienced that. Normally it's like, okay, cool, this seat's comfortable, and then that like goes away a little bit. This one, you drive it around for an hour, and then you start to feel even better the longer you're in the seat. Now, I haven't done a road trip or anything like that where it's like, okay, 5 hours of sitting in the seat, but I don't anticipate this seat being any issue. If you're comfortable on a road trip in like a basic Civic, this is gonna be a huge upgrade. It feels more like a couch. Oops, don't judge me. Get the side real quick. This car needs a detail really bad. I can just tell, even the way the water hits it, that it doesn't necessarily get really good car washes or good soap on it. When the water kind of sticks like that, that means there's a lot of buildup and residue on the car that has to get taken care of. When you wash a car that, I don't know the specific terms, but when it more like glides off easily and doesn't settle and turn into like a puddle, that's when you're in good shape. If the water goes on your car and it just turns into constant bubbles and sticks, that means you need to get that baby taken care of. And then all of your washes after, even the way you rinse the car will be faster because all the water will literally bead off, almost like you have oil on it where it doesn't mix. All right, now let's get the sponge. And I'm actually going to start with the shadow side. It's kind of the struggle when you're washing your car and it's like warmer out, sun's hitting it. Not fun, but it's all good. So I'll start with the shadow side because this side of the paint car is going to be a lot cooler and it won't dry as fast. So then that way you can finish the other side a little bit more quickly and be able to knock out both sides faster without the water drying up and the soap drying up as quickly. My dream would be to have somewhere where I can wash it inside, indoors. Like a detail shop, that would be the dream. I wish there was a place locally where you could just pull inside. Some of these, like auto shops, for example, pull inside, pay a little bit of a premium, but to be able to wash your car in a place where it's closed, indoors, controlled environment, good lighting, maybe have a subscription to it, almost like some of these cheaper places, but a nicer place. Oh man, that would be the business. Back to the Civic Type R. Like I said, the thing that's most surprising is how comfortable this thing is. It's really crazy. So I've owned a couple of Hondas, regular Honda Civic, had a Honda Accord Sport, good cars. This is more comfortable than those for sure, big time. The seat comfort, the suspension is insane. You could tell they put so much time into making the suspension perfect for a daily driver, but also the track when you want to get on the track. Because around town, this feels a lot better than some of the last generation, let's say like the 9th gen and back. Those are pretty rough. Kind of just like, okay, yeah, typical commuter, nothing special going on. This is like a highway cruiser. You can just chill. It's so good. I see why people daily drive these. Yeah, this car has a lot of places that you have to clean, but it's worth it for sure. So for someone that hasn't spent too much time driving a manual, this car is relatively easy. Clutch feels good. It's not too heavy. Feels about right. Really good, honestly. And then the shifter, very soft and buttery. I drove a 2022 Civic Si about a month ago. That one was very notchy, so I guess it depends on what you like. I see why people would like notchy, because then you just have even more confidence about each gear. But I like the way this feels a lot better, especially long term. I'm sure, you know, after a while those kind of break in, get a little bit softer, but it was extremely notchy. So it just depends on what you like. This one feels more comfortable going through the gears, just cruising around town, chilling. I like it a lot. This side. Let's get these. Yeah, I would definitely have a blower for a car like this. This will make it so much faster. There's so many creases. But man, the design of this, man, this car is gonna look so good in like 20 years. Oh, that's gonna be like, what is that? For the next generation of, you know, high school students or whatever, see one of these around, they're not gonna know what it is. I like this a lot as a daily driver. And the nice part is that you don't even have to drive it fast to enjoy it. And I mean, that also comes with the manual. You just feel like you're involved and engaged the whole time, but especially this car, you just feel like you're in something special. The seats and just everything. You could be going 35 miles an hour and feel like a unique experience versus, you know, your average little car, automatic. You feel like you gotta push it to have fun. This, you could cruise, but then when you get on it, it's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe how the handling, oh, it's so good. The handling alone on a corner and the way you feel everything like grip up, it's insane. Insane. I haven't been driving this car that spiritedly, honestly. Just been getting used to it. Kind of went in a little bit, but not that much, like I would a car that I've owned for a while and just know everything completely. But when I have, the handling is where it's at. So much torque, but the way it's able to handle the power with it being front wheel drive, it's honestly really crazy. I love how fast it responds when you're going, say, around a corner or something like that. The way it responds to your inputs and adapts to the road, like adaptive suspension is called that for a reason. And I've driven other cars with adaptive suspension, but this one is so unique in how quickly it responds. Let's say I'm like just coasting, like whatever, merging on the freeway. I hit the throttle harder, and then obviously the steering wheel stiffens up, but the way it doesn't feel unnatural. It feels like, ooh, let's do this, and I'm ready for you at any time. Like, it's like, let's go. Yeah, the limits of this car are really high, and I think it's a good amount too, where it's like not too crazy where you can't enjoy it on the road. This you definitely can enjoy. But I can only imagine on the racetrack, oh my goodness, this thing would be insane. Because even on your favorite back road, it's super good. Oops. I really need to buy a longer hose. I've been putting it off for too long. But as much as I wash the car, I really should have a bigger hose. That's all good. Work with what you got. This poor paint. I know it's used for Toro, so probably a little bit different than how you would take care of your paint if it was like your daily driver and you knew people weren't gonna potentially be all over the place and have to detail it like crazy every single time you have a booking. If I owned this baby, I would actually take it to a shop, have them detail it really good, clay bar, all that works. Especially with a black car, like, man, you have to really keep things on point because everything shows, and black is nice until it's dirty. And it's like, oh man, this car looks bad or whatever. Another thing you might notice about this one, especially because you're a Civic Type R fan, most likely like I am, these wheels are not the original, so those aren't the Continental tires. Those are some other ones. The owner had to change it and get the wheels repaired, I guess. Someone probably kissed a curb or something. And that's why the red little ribbon is not around the, I shouldn't say ribbon, but the red striping is not around the wheels. It's actually clean, honestly. I don't mind it not having that. I always felt like that was whatever, but maybe for someone that owns it, they enjoy it and think it makes the car pop a little more. I guess it depends on the color too, but I like this Batmobile black color. And having more things blacked out definitely looks better. This car is such an experience, like just sitting in it, not even moving, you're like, man, this is gonna be a cool drive to the grocery store, to like the gas station, whatever. Everything's an experience. And the one thing I'm actually surprised about is how much my wife likes this car. I'm sure it being in black makes it a lot better. She loves cars in black, me too. But the practicality is insane. Like, this is perfect for someone that needs some space, doesn't really want to go the SUV route, even though there's like performance SUVs. This literally gives you the space of a decent crossover, like let's say a Mazda 3, RAV4. Okay, maybe not that big. That one's probably a little bit bigger, but you're not missing out by much, is what I'm saying. Some of the pictures that I saw for the 11th gen Civic, which I know the dimensions are most likely pretty similar, the hatchback, that one actually had a 55-inch TV in a box and still had a bunch of space. Like a brand new one that you would buy at Costco, still in the box, like, oh, I'm gonna buy a TV. They have that in the picture of the 2022 Civic hatchback with like a couple other boxes. So there's tons of space in these things. And that's why I like that they chose to use the hatchback for their Type R, because they could have done, let's say, like a regular sedan, almost like what the current SI is. No one would have complained. But when you get that extra storage space, now you can use this car for way more and actually drive it more. And when I see people that have these cars, like online, they sell them, and it's a couple years old with 3,000 miles, 1,500,000 miles. I get it, some people are like in this more for the investment, or maybe they just didn't want to drive stick, or whatever the case is. I'm like, man, you missed out on a lot of happy miles, because these cars are incredible. It's not perfect, for sure. There's some stuff like, because this one's an older gen too, I can't wait for the 11th gen, but the infotainment, it's so old feeling. It was already like not that great, because I have the same one in my 2017 Honda Accord, and it was whatever, it got the job done, but After, I don't know, it's 2022 now, you experience some other infotainments. Thankfully, Apple CarPlay saves it, but it feels very dated for sure. And it's pretty slow. So I took a video yesterday. We were at Costco. I was like, hey, let's get an idea of like what this is like to use. You know what I mean? Like, if you're even thinking about getting a certain car, I'd highly recommend renting one wherever you can, whether it's Turo or whatever. Obviously, I'm not sponsored by them or anything like that, but wherever you want to rent one from. Even the dealership sometimes rent certain cars depending on what you're looking at. I'd recommend renting one for a couple days if you can before you make that big investment, because a 20-minute test drive somewhere really doesn't tell you a lot about the car, and most of the time the dealerships are in a place where the road is like perfectly smooth. But if you spend some time like actually driving it, taking it to the grocery store, driving it at different times of the day, driving it at night, then you can really get an understanding of, sorry car, thankfully this is rubber, of what that car is like. For example, I was thinking about potentially, this is gonna sound funny since I'm watching this, so potentially getting a Subaru, what was it? I can't even remember now, I lost interest. But basically I was thinking about getting a car for like, okay, go on road trips for, you know, in the mountains, let's say you're gonna camp and kind of do that vibe. Rented it and I was like, the first 20 minutes were okay. And then I drove it for like 2 more hours, noticed how the seats were and things like that. Moral of the story, you can rent a car before you buy it. I would. Or if they offer an extended test drive, which is kind of hard, especially right now. It's not that many cars as it is, but I would for sure. Because then you start to notice things you like absolutely love, or you're like, oh, okay, this I don't like, and then you can see what you're comfortable making a compromise on. So there's one spot I missed, which is the top on this side. It's all good though. If you're like me, you love washing your car. Like, to me, it's therapy. I know it seems like it's work or whatever, but to me, this is so relaxing. And like my version of exercise, because I'm obviously walking around, washing the car, and then when you see it, it makes it feel brand new again. Like, if you want your car to feel new, and let's say you're not even interested in buying another car, you're like, oh, I'm kind of over this car, give it a really good car wash, man, you'd be surprised. You're like, oh yeah, that's what I fell in love with. It's an easy hack. And then if you're a music head, I don't know what it is, when you wash your car, the music sounds so much better in the car. The car feels clean. It's interesting. One more quick little rinse. I feel like I've been rinsing this car a lot. It's really warm out though. It's basically, summer's right around the corner. And this paint needs some love. So the way the water and soap and all that stuff is collecting on it is different than even my car that I wash weekly. Plus there's just so much going on with this car. Even just washing the back alone, I'm like, so much detail. but I love it. It's so unique. This thing is so cool. I want to talk about the 11th gen while we're here. I think I'm most excited about that one because if you haven't been in the new 11th gen Civic, I don't care if it's just the regular sedan, the hatchback, whatever it is, you should drive it. That thing is so clean. Plus you get a better sense of the body proportions and shape, size, all that stuff in person. Online, everything looks a little bit distorted and kind of funky. In person, man. But the interior, let's say it had this design with the new 11th gen Civic interior, that would be really timeless. But I'm excited for the changes they're making because then it's a little bit more clean, and then that GT style wing, almost like a Porsche GT3, GT4 RS, blah, blah, blah. That makes the car look so sick. So I'm excited for that. And I think for anyone that didn't like this design, because trust me, I get it. This is the tile I'm working with today. Really small, it's all good. I think people are gonna really like it. And it's gonna be clean. The lines are gonna be a little bit more simpler. That car is definitely gonna be easier to wash, probably. Because all you really have is the wing and then whatever they do with the rear diffuser, but it's like a couple less pieces to worry about for sure. But I'm excited too because not only is the interior fresh, but the refinements they've been making, even with just the suspension, like you drive the regular Civic hatchback, it handles very well. And I drove the slowest one. It was the one with 158 horsepower. Naturally aspirated, I believe, yeah. But the handling was good because they beefed up the rear sway bar, upgraded the suspension. So basically, if you don't know, the hatchback for the 22 model year gets better suspension than the sedan. The sedan's actually catered to a little bit more of just like, okay, person that's not interested in any of that. Even though it's good, like I drove that one too, but it's more like an Accord, nice and soft, comfortable, but handles very, very well. It's really good. Definitely not a bad option, but the hatchback gives you more of those handling characteristics that you might be interested in if you're even thinking about or like the Civic Type R. And maybe you don't want to spend that money. I'd probably get a Civic hatchback, fix it up a little bit. The sport touring is kind of a big question mark to me. Like, it's nice, but that's also kind of a lot. I like the pricing of the Civic Sport, even though it's like slower a little bit, but it's a good price point. And then you can just make upgrades and tweaks that'll make that car wake up a little bit. But 31, and especially in this market, for a Civic hatchback touring, I don't care if it has bows, all of that, it's still kind of a lot. Factor in taxes, 33, and here's where I think I feel more kind of questionable about that, because you can get one of these used for a couple $1,000s more. If you find, let's say, like a, I don't know, 2017, 2018, I don't know, medium mileage, 50,000, something like that, you can probably get that for like 35 on a good day, up to 40, 43. That's a different price point, but you get what I mean. That's a big difference, but you're getting way more car, and almost, nothing's a guarantee, but you're definitely going to have a better depreciation rate on a Civic Type R than you will a hatchback touring, even in today's crazy market. And then when, let's say, the market falls back to normal, you're still going to be in a pretty good place getting one of these. So that's kind of my input. I definitely want to get a blower. That would be so nice. Just to be able to blow all of this off and then kind of just finish up with a couple things that are damp. That'd be sweet. This car is really ahead of its time with the design. I know it's a little more youthful inspired, I guess you could say, but in 20 years, this thing's gonna look really good. It's gonna be one of those standout cars. It's already like made itself a modern classic, and it hasn't been that long. This in 20 years is gonna be like how we really love the S2000s, the Evos, all that stuff. That's what this is gonna be. I can't believe I'm washing this car. I've been like literally dreaming about driving it. This is definitely worth paying to rent. This is like a vacation, even though I'm still like just chilling in my hometown. This experience is just so cool. And then like sharing that with others too that know how much I love this car and like what it means and everything is pretty crazy. I'm gonna miss having it, but it's all good. I know I didn't do the wheels. Normally I actually like clean those out. I might still do it just so it looks a little bit better. I have a little road trip today, so I'm kind of like, should I do it or should I just wipe it down, call it a day? I'll see. So is there anything I don't like about this car? Oh yeah, there's definitely something that I've noticed. I don't know if it's just this car, because I know people complain that these are quiet. I don't know if the owner actually made some changes to the exhaust or intake or anything like that. I haven't popped the hood, honestly, so I don't know. But this one's pretty loud. Like, it's loud enough in my opinion. But the buzziness is what I'm gonna call it. If you own one, you may know what I'm talking about, or maybe it might just be this one. At like higher speeds, higher RPMs, really, not higher speeds, but let's say you're like, okay, 4,500, nah, probably more like 5,500 RPM, anything in that 5 range. Toward the right side of like the front, let's say you're looking at the steering wheel, that passenger side, it's pretty buzzy coming from there. Not that like things are rattling, but it's just a very interesting sound that I find interesting and kind of weird. I think I'd probably, I don't know, depending on what they've done or not done, I would probably upgrade the intake and maybe hear more of that noise or something like that, because the buzzy noise is kind of, I don't know, it's not the sexiest sound. It's interesting. but it's also cool, like hearing this car wake up and like hear everything kind of going on, and so mechanical, like super cool. But I just kind of noticed that and I was like, And then the infotainment, like I said, I think that's something that, I mean, if you have Apple CarPlay, so just switch the screen and leave it on that would be the best move in my opinion. The regular outdated red infotainment system. Other than that, super amazing. I would definitely own one. Gas mileage. I haven't checked my MP3 or MP3s, my MPGs, because I'm just trying to have fun and get a sense of the car and stuff. But I've driven it relatively quickly with like throttle application, things like that, and I'm just now starting to have to get to a point where I need to get gas. I think I've got a quarter of a tank left, but also had a 60-mile drive or something like that to even pick up this car. So, and I think these get, 320-ish or something like that, miles to a tank, depending how you're driving. So, pretty good for what it is. And I know if you're like actually just chilling, cruising, people get really, really good gas mileage out of these. From what I've heard, people are getting closer to 30 on the highway, and then streets, 24? 23, something like that. Really good for a car like this with so much performance. And it's a small tank too. This is probably like a 10-gallon tank or something like that, 11 max. So, not bad. Not bad. I know this is a pretty long video, so if you're still around, thanks for watching. I guess some more updates about the channel and to kind of tell you where I am. So my dream is changing with time, but ideally to be able to review more cars, show you what it's like to drive them, what would it be like if, I'd recommend if you own one or not own one, things like that. Basically, automotive reviewer, journalist, but more so on the video side. And so the more cars I can get on this channel, the better. From like an SEO perspective on YouTube, to be able to rank, people be able to find, discover my videos would be awesome. And that's what I'm looking to do in the automotive space. And so that's why you see a lot of videos where it's like, hey, this is what the inside of the 2022 Civic hatchback looks like, because I'm just like that person where a new car comes out, maybe I'm interested in it, and I'm like, man, what does that car look like inside, from just like an everyday person, not the like dealership polished or OEM polished videos and things like that. It's more like, hey, what's it look like, or what's it like to go to the grocery store in that car? Normal stuff is what I want to do. And then a lot of people don't know about certain cars that are coming out or even exist, and they're shopping, and they maybe stick to the same 2 or 3 cars that they've had, that they've always bought and stuck to for 20 years or whatever. And it's introducing them to new things, especially as the game gets more competitive and companies come out with better stuff, cheaper stuff, especially depending on the budget. Maybe you're like, hey, I want to see what's a good car under 25K, for example, because that's really hard to find. And it's like, maybe you don't want to go Honda. I don't know, maybe you want to go Kia or whatever. So making videos that shows just what's out there in the market. That's what I want to do, because I'm that person where I'm like, oh, what's the best SUV, let's say under 35,000 or whatever. Long story short, I want to create a bunch of automotive content to be able to show you everything that's out there and that's available, and then turn that into another stream of income. Most importantly, I used to shoot videos for clients and run their social media. Now I just work in-house for an agency and manage social media accounts for different companies. So now I'm taking everything that I've been like working on for, since 2013, and fine-tuning it to what I like, which is cars. So long story short, that's where I am. Get inside these door jambs. Yeah, I think I'll definitely get the wheels. I think I'm short on time though, but it'll be worth it, because I definitely need to shine them. That's always a nice finishing touch. For these, I don't do anything special, to be honest. I'm sure there's some detailers that make sure this is just as good as the exterior paint. But for me, I just wash it really quick, wipe it down, because I don't want all this ugliness to show. All the water that gets there when you're washing it and stuff like that. I don't want all that to show and turn into more gunk and more water spots, so just wipe it down. So I'll do this real quick. Curious where the water falls in the hatchback. Okay, so with these, all the water's there. I'm used to a sedan, so I've never washed a hatchback before. But usually in a sedan, I always start like there because the water drips on the window. This car, I'll start here. Oh, and then I found some water under the wing. Oh yeah, you can see a lot more this way. Yeah, get all this, get it as dry as I can. There's so much space in here, it's so amazing. There's a lot of soap builds up there. So just keep that in mind. If you're new, get this car new and you haven't washed it before, just know there's a bunch of soap that gets built up and water back here. But yeah, I love the usability of this. It's so nice to have performance, because sometimes you have to sacrifice and get a car that's really fast and fun. Then you go to the grocery store, want to have a passenger, and it's not as fun for everyone else. And you feel bad as the driver. I know I do. You're like, oh man, how's this stuff gonna fit or whatever? Or leg room, this, you don't have any of those problems. This other side. Okay, so water drips from the wing down to the side body panel, so keep that in mind. This car is so sick, man. Like, this is why it's good to wash the car. Like, all these little details that I haven't even got to pay attention to since I've been driving it, I can see everything. Let me turn this light off. Always a good move. You know how the door or the light automatically turns on when the doors are open for most cars? Try to turn that off when you're washing a car and you have all the doors open, obviously. That way you save the battery and don't drain it too much, especially depending on how long you end up washing the car. One less headache to worry about. Yeah, I don't know if this is standard or not, but this Civic Type R has, what do you call it? Right where the footrest is when you open the door, basically in the door frame, there is a red Civic Type R logo that lights up. So I thought that was cool. I don't know if that's standard or not, but as much as I know this car, that was one thing I didn't know, but I think that's really cool. So I'm gonna do something a little backwards while everything's kind of drying and wash the wheels. Wow, this paint needs some love. Poor baby. So I'll let the door jambs and all that stuff kind of dry. Clean these wheels really quick. Because they're really dirty. And this is what I use to clean the wheels. So you just basically scrub that in. Normally I have wheel cleaner that I spray, but I actually ran out, so I'm just gonna use soap. The soap I use to wash the car. And this makes a big difference to keep everything a lot cleaner and stuff like that, because there's a lot of gunk. And from what I've heard, there's a lot of brake dust that happens with this car. So this will help with that. Get it all clean, all that jazz. Oh man. I don't know why these are actually coming on today. Oh, gotta wash that again. That's how it goes making videos. Stuff happens. All good though. And I'll use this other towel. So I get all this, because all that got wet. There's a lot of mist. Whoops. There's a lot of mist. Get inside here real quick. So this is a capless gas tank. Or not tank, but, oh, you know what I mean. Fuel cap, so you don't have one. You have a little cover on the door. Then you just put the little gas pump in there. Pretty cool. Kind of nice, one less thing to worry about when you get gas. Definitely more convenient. So not the end of the world if you don't have a capless. Alright, let's try to get these wheels. So I always check, especially depending on the car. My car, my air pressure little gauge, or not gauge, but you know what I mean. Where you put the air in the tire, that thing is normally like inside the wheel a little bit more. This one's actually on the outside, so it's nice. So when I'm doing this, I don't have to worry about hitting it. and I can always pay attention. And I always look too, because you don't want to be poking like brake lines and stuff like that. So just be careful, pay attention, know your car. But yeah, see all this just dust and everything from the road gets collected in the wheel. When you go to a place that washes your car for you, they don't do this unless you're paying for like a detail. They'll only clean this little outside here. So it's a nice part about when you do your own car. You can give it the love that it deserves depending on how much time you have, and then you just start learning different things with time. But this thing right here, it's really cheap too, but it's been a lifesaver for keeping the wheels good over time, because when I wasn't doing this, I would just clean the outside just like the car wash places do. And then after like a year or a couple years of doing that, you have all this buildup there. So, not fun. So if you do it weekly or however often you wash your car, you don't have to worry about it as much. Yeah, I wish I had the actual wheel cleaner, because then it breaks down a lot of like the dust more, and then any like grease and stuff too. Because you get a lot of different things on your wheels as you're driving, so it breaks up all that, almost like a degreaser. It's really good. So Mcguire's has a good one. Can't remember the name. They're about $15 or so. I like Mcguire's a lot. Chemical Guys, I've used some of their products. I personally don't like them from everything that I've used. They're just not that great. Mcguire's is good. A couple other companies out there make some good stuff, but I will show you my favorite tire shine later. It's really, really good. And it doesn't leave all of that oil, so you have that splattering everywhere on the side and stuff like that. It dries basically as you're putting it on after a couple minutes, but it's still like, you know, gives it a good shine at the end of the day. And it's not too much, because some tire dressings, oh man, it's just like gel or things like that. I hate those kind of products. Man, I haven't even got to really look at these brake calipers. Right now, the rotor's like all orange, but that always happens. With these massive red Brembos, man, they look good. Again, sorry for the noise. This is my first time with the setup. Sprinklers are on. You're probably hearing the water really loud, but hey, just trying to make a video for people like me that are obsessed with this car and want to know every little thing about it and what the day in the life is like with some of these. I've been wondering for years. I've watched a bunch of videos and things like that, but now I could actually experience it. Side note, I just turned on Rev Match yesterday for the first time. Rev matching, oh my goodness, so nice, especially if you're a beginner manual driver like me. Like, I've driven some, but I'm not the greatest. Like, definitely practiced a lot. Like with my mom, she drove a manual. That's the only person in my family that actually has had a manual in like a long time. My mom had a 2006 Mazda 3. It was fun. I think it was a 5-speed manual. I don't think they really had 6 speeds yet. She just sold it a couple of years ago. I wish I bought it from her. It was low mileage too. I think it only had like 80,000 miles, 2006. She bought it brand new, one owner, no accidents. I just wasn't in a position to at the time, but That would have been a fun little project car right there. Anyways, this car definitely, I feel like it's easier than some of the more simple cars I've driven, just because the clutch fill and things like that. And now I'm working on getting smoother with my shifts and things like that. Downshifting I'm getting better at. Like I said, I've literally been driving this just for a couple days. But now I'm just like, okay, how do I time it for like those buttery shifts? I know it comes with time, but either way, it's just fun. It's like driving all over again when you're in a manual. It's just new, it's fresh. It's a lot of fun. Get the other side. So there's a product out there that you put behind your wheels for when you're washing the car, and then that way you don't get it stuck when you're like bringing the hose around and stuff like that. I really need to get one of those. It basically just like, it's a blocker to it, so it just wraps around it smoothly, and it's only a couple bucks. Yeah, these wheels need a lot of cleaning. This will help a little bit, but they need like a serious degreaser, wheel cleaner. That'll break up a lot of this just grime. Actually, I shouldn't say grime, but it'll break up a lot of that. So overall, this is about what I expected the car would feel like to wash. Not too bad. Not too bad at all. I think the only tough part actually is back here. This has the most going on. The side, like the side skirts aren't too bad. It's mainly like the rear diffuser, the wing, the massive wing has a lot going on from, you know, an aero perspective, so it's cool, but definitely a lot to clean. Oh yeah, there's another thing. I don't know if it's just this car or not, but the audio in this thing, trash. I thought it would be a lot better. I mean, I wasn't expecting, okay, premium Bose or Harman Kardon, because that's not what this is. But it has a sub, it has tweeters. Honestly, I've adjusted the audio. I don't know if maybe someone blew the speakers in here, but it is not good. That'd be the first thing I'd upgrade. People are always doing wheels and stuff like that. Maybe it's just my experience, but I've adjusted what I can, and I'm a pretty techie person, and I have the settings on where they should be, but it's just very weak. No low end, mids are weak, highs are weak. Yeah, I would upgrade the speakers for sure. I just don't, yeah, as a daily driver, like, you can't even enjoy the music. And this one, like I said, maybe someone that owns it, maybe these are blown or something like that, but he had to upgrade the audio, change out the sub. I didn't think it'd be this bad. I had a Honda Accord 2017 Accord Sport, and that one actually sounded better, and that one was not good at all. But it had more bass. It didn't have a sub. It was just the 4-door speakers, and actually no, 2 speakers in the front, and then the 2 in the trunk. But yeah, and that sounded better than this. And it didn't have tweeters, it didn't have a sub, so kind of confused, like, what happened to these? And this car isn't old. I checked the mileage, it only has 22,000 miles on it. So I'm curious, like, what happened? What's going on? Because for me, that's a big experience outside of everything else. So if you're considering one, definitely check that out. Some people aren't audiophiles, music heads, whatever you want to call it, so it doesn't matter. I am. I don't need to have a crazy sub or anything like that, like I'm way past that, but just a nice warm sound that where everything's enjoyable and you can actually hear all the audio like the way it's supposed to be. And I use Tidal, clearly not sponsored by them. I use Tidal a lot every day, and they have master quality audio, and it sounds really good, even in a car that's, let's say, not that great. But even in this one, disappointing. So just something to note. So now I'm gonna do this the lazy way. These tires have, like these wheels have so much build up, but just gonna dry these up. I actually like the wheels without the red ribbon. I keep calling it a ribbon, but you know what I mean, the red striping. But these cars with aftermarket wheels, depending on how you style it, obviously style is subjective and all that stuff. But there's some really clean wheels out there. I like some of, I think it's Ray's wheels. They have some sick options for these. Everyone likes, I think, what, TE or T37s. Still not too familiar with those, but that's what a lot of people put on these. Those look really cool. So I've heard if you go down a size, you actually get more understeer than versus the stock setup. So it's interesting how they've engineered the suspension and everything, the suspension geometry to work best with the bigger 20-inch wheels. But what's even more interesting to me is how thin these wheels are, because these are a 245. Actually, these are too narrow, so don't pay attention to these actual tires. I think they should be bigger, because either that or they were mounted interestingly, but I don't think so. But I think these should be like 250, 255s. It just seems, it's actually probably just this tire. It's not the Continental. So I'm sure 245, 30 R20s are what come with the car. But this wheel just doesn't have a good sidewall design, so it's kind of like poking out a little bit. But that's just these wheels. Me, I definitely have Continentals or Michelins. But this is a Toro car, so I'm sure people jack up stuff all the time, unfortunately. But what I was saying is, even though these wheels are so low profile, like really, like a 30 series sidewall is really low, it's still comfortable. So it's crazy how much because you know tires are really, really important. They make a big difference with the way your car rides and things like that. But in this car, it's kind of like the opposite, where the suspension's doing an insane amount of work to keep the car feeling good in comfort mode, even though these tires are really thin. Because I changed the tires on my personal car to a thinner profile, so I have two 35 R19s, and the car came with a 18-inch wheel, I think. So I think I had 40 series sidewall. Huge difference. Much softer, a little more buttery. In this car, doesn't matter. It's interesting. Very interesting concept. But yeah, I love how this thing rides in comfort mode. I put in plus R mode once on the freeway, and the pavement wasn't that bad, so it's still like relatively good. But I'm sure on like a rough city road, that'd be pretty rough. A lot more stiff. But I've actually been keeping it in comfort most of the time, just kind of chilling, because like I said, I haven't been driving this car that hard. And then put it in sport, because it obviously defaults to sport. Sport's really nice. Sport's actually like a really good medium. Like, it feels good. Comfort's just a little more buttery, so I've been keeping it in that for the sake of it, especially because it's like, why have stronger throttle response if I'm just chilling anyway? Save a little bit of gas. So I'm almost done. Just need to get the tires shined, which I'll show you in a second. And forgive me for the camera angle. Kind of just have it set in one position because that's what I have to work with for today. Maybe in future videos though, it would be cool to, I'd probably go GoPro mode, which is what my plan was, but I kind of wanted to keep it simple too. I'd probably just go GoPro mode, and then that way you could literally see everything I'm doing. But short on time and things like that today, so forgive me, but thanks for watching regardless. So now I'm gonna quickly do the inside, just kind of wipe it down. It wasn't that bad. I just really wanted to get this outside decent because it was very, very dirty. So I'm curious, what do you guys think about the Type R? Do you own one? Considering one? Waiting for the new one? I'm kind of in that camp actually. I don't think these will drop in value because considering the last gen Civic SIs are so I don't think these will go down in value even when the new one comes out. I think it's going to stay the same. I think a lot of people will be trading them or selling them because even Honda Pro Jason is selling his. But I don't think people are going to, I don't think these are going to drop in value at all. They're going to stay the same, maybe go up because then people are going to be trying to get the new one, but there's only going to be so many made within a certain amount of time because they can barely make an F Civic hatchback. So you can only imagine a Type R. It's going to be a little bit hard to get one, and everyone knows how tough it is to get that car. So I'm kind of curious how that's going to change these, but we'll see. But yeah, I really, really like those. I'm curious how they're going to price them. The competition has changed a lot. Oh, and this is the product I'm using. All right, so this is the only Chemical Guys product I like. This is their tire shine. It's so good, the way it leaves a nice shine, but it's not sticky and things like that. It's really cool. So this is what I've been using for a couple months now. Tested a lot of different tire dressings, and this one is the business. And then this is just a foam sponge that I got from, I think, it's gross, AutoZone. I like this one a lot. This makes it easy to be able to like cleanly wipe. What do you guys like to use for yours? Comment below. Yeah, this one's really good. Car looks a lot better. Poor paint, I feel bad. I don't know how much the camera's picking it up, but this paint has seen better days, for sure. All right, so I'm gonna finish up these last two tires on the side. But I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up this video. Thanks again for watching. Comment below what you'd like to see on the Type R in the future, or any other car. I'm always checking out different cars, trying to show them off on Instagram, Twitter, or not Twitter, but Instagram, TikTok. So follow me there. And thanks for watching. Catch you later. Peace.